Welcome to Betting Weekly WTA, the women's tennis betting podcast, brought to you in association with Bet Rivers. Before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe to us on YouTube and your favourite podcast provider. And tell us what you think in the comments. And of course, follow us on social media. The handle is @BecauseWeWin. I'm Rory Jiwani, with me Nigel Seeley, to look ahead to the second of back-to-back Clay 1000 tournaments. It's in Rome. But first, Nigel, Madrid didn't go to plan. You did say top seeds normally do well, and it was the world number one, Aryna Sabalenka, who claimed her third title in the Spanish capital. She beat Coco Gauff in the final, who demolished Iga Swiatek in the semis. Swiatek came back from being bageled by Madison Keys in the quarterfinals. Obviously, Sabalenka, a bit of a tougher task in slower conditions in Rome. But I suppose the question is, what do we make of Swiatek at the moment?
Well, good evening to you, Rory. A bit late now because these bookmakers, how long do they take to put these prices up? We had the draws, it's 9 o'clock and now it's 6:30 p.m. In London, and it took a few hours to get the odds available. But they're here, and looking forward to a good few 10 days of tennis action in Rome. Well, that is the big talking point, Iga Swiatek, isn't it? I mean, I sort of thought to myself last week that plus 350 was too big a price for someone who had such a fantastic record in Madrid. But then from the first match, I knew we had a bit of a problem because the unforced errors, 87 unforced errors, I think it was, in the first match against Elia, which was just incredible. She then went on to beat Noskova, which was a fairly commanding performance. And then she played Schneider, where she won 6-love, and you thought, oh, she's back. And then Schneider got back, and it went down all the way down to the wire. Keys lost the first at 6-love, and then when she played Gauff, you just knew that the writing was on the wall for her at that time, and Gauff demolished her 6-1, 6-1. Her mental state after the match was something that I've seen that happen before with her, though, Swiatek. I've seen her have breakdowns before on court, and she was emotionally all over the place. There is something not right of her game. Change to a new coach, the way she's playing, the way she's serving so many double faults, and when she's not serving double faults, these serves are so far out of the box. It's unbelievable. They're so wide from where the position and where they are. But when you say all that and you say she's got a problem, you say that she's got a problem. She's got the best record of anybody in 1000s this year. She's not failed to get to a quarterfinal in any of her tournaments, but she hasn't won an event, which by her high standards is incredible. So, I mean, definitely, there is no way you could be looking at her now and thinking that the pre-odds last week, I think she was even money. 2 weeks ago, she was -$2 to win the French Open. She's got to be a vulnerable favourite to win the French Open. That's the way she is, and she needs some confidence because her game is all over the place. And she's also lost the fear factor. Nobody is frightened of her anymore. And she looks a player in a hurry. She's rushing into a game, making lots of mistakes. I just did think that the price of plus 350 was a bet. And I thought at one stage we might fluke it, I thought we might fluke it, not playing very well, but get through. But then eventually she got found out. She wasn't playing well enough to win the tournament, but the price I thought was attractive. I've got serious worries for Swiatek. The problem is really in this world at the moment, the women's game again is quite, Aryna Sabalenka is running away with it. But Swiatek is a problem. And I don't see her changing things very quickly.
No, we can have a look at those French Open odds. Iga Swiatek plus 160. As you say, she was much, much shorter than that a few weeks ago. Aryna Sabalenka plus 225. Coco Gauff, $7. Mira Andreeva, $10. Elena Ostapenko, $25. It's $30 bar those. I think with Swiatek, what you say, the fear factor's definitely gone. I also think players have worked out that if you play, Gauff and Swiatek are quite similar in some ways because their serves and their forehands can fall apart. But I think with Swiatek, I think players have worked out if you don't give her room, so if you try to hit it flat straight to her, she struggles to hit her shots because we know how good she is with that looping kind of wide, almost like that lasso forehand, they call it. And similarly with the backhand. But if you kind of cramp her for room a bit, I think she's struggling. And I remember Andreeva did that to her in Dubai. And Keys definitely did it, and Gauff definitely did it. But yeah, something's not right. she hasn't reached a final since last year's French Open, which is staggering. But if she's going to turn it around, Rome's probably the place for it, I guess.
Well, yeah, but you know, well, we're going to come on to the Rome odds in a minute, and she's the tournament favourite. You're still taking prohibitive odds on the back of that performance last week. She's a much shorter price to win Rome than she was last week in Madrid, and I think on the performance we saw last week, you would be more worried about the way she's playing than confident about the way she's playing for this tournament and for the French Open. The French Open, she's plus 160. The way Sabalenka's playing, there is a good chance that Sabalenka could start favourite for this ahead of Swiatek if she has another good week here. If she wins the tournament this week and Sabalenka and Swiatek gets beat in the quarterfinals or semi-finals again, then I think there'll be a flip-flopping favourite here. Sabalenka is on fire. She's got to the final of the last 4 tournaments. She's played 6 tournaments this year, got to 8 tournaments this year, got to 6 finals, 3 she's won, and 3 she's been the runner-up. She's absolutely consistent, and she's the grass court, the clay court game yet. We saw Monte Carlo for the men's. We've seen Rome this week coming up. We've seen Madrid. We've seen some of the tournaments. You know, I haven't seen a real slow, gritty clay court event yet on the men's or the women's circuit. Is that because then the slow courts may be a little bit quicker than they have been over in recent years? Is it because, like Wimbledon, for example, they've slowed down the grass courts a little bit to make the better seeds have a chance and will make it more level field? But what I've seen on the clay court season so far, players who you wouldn't expect to do well on clay, both men and women, are doing well and having shock results. So it'll be interesting to see if we get back to that kind of typical European clay here. But there's something at the moment. I mean, Swiatek's got major problems. At plus 160, I couldn't bet it. And I also think, you know, the fact that the last year Olympics, when she got by Zheng, that was the start of it. That was the time, and then suddenly she's got beaten in the Olympic Games. Everyone thought she was an absolute certainty, a Roland Garros, and then everyone knew we've got a chance against this girl. And at this moment in time, if you just come down from, I use this analogy quite a lot, but if you come down from Mars and you put on your TV screens and you watch Iga Swiatek and Arina Sabalenka and said which one would you want to bet and which one would be favourite, well, you would never have Iga Swiatek the favourite in any of these tournaments. So, yeah, it's a very alarming thing for Iga Swiatek, but I thought last week the price was right. This week I'm not so sure if the price is right.
Yeah, I suppose with Swiatek there was that drug suspension as well, and the aftermath of that. And yeah, she's just not been the same player since. I think I've said before, you know, even when she is opening the bakery, as they say, against lesser players, it doesn't seem to be, you know, it's not an indication of how she's going to play against someone in the top 10. You know, she's really, she's getting, as you say, she's getting to a lot of quarters and semi-finals, but when she's up against someone very good, that's where she's been found wanting. And I don't know, maybe it's a mental thing, or maybe it is that the frailty in the forehand. I'm sure it's a combination of a lot of things, but as you say, I can't be betting her at the moment.
No. And unfortunately with the clay court season, the tournaments go big tournaments, so bang, bang, bang.
Yeah.
And she hasn't got the time to change it around. And she needs a bit of time to look at her game. She had loads of time last week. She went to Madrid early. She was there ahead of all the other players. She was working hard on her game, and she still was. She was poorer last week, I thought, even though she got to the semi-finals than she was the week before. So there is some serious problems in this one, in the Iga Swiatek camp, and it's whether she can turn it around. And at this moment in time, I think she's a fade. In saying that, she'll probably go on and win this tournament, you know. But at the prices of what we've seen so far this year, at the prohibitive prices, she's a fade. You know, if someone was offering me $4 or plus 450, I might bet her. But at the odds we're seeing at the moment, I think she's a real fade.
So let's move on to Rome then. Like Madrid, it's a 96-player draw. The first, 32 seeds get first round buys. Weather forecast isn't all that clever. Certainly tomorrow, I think we're due a bit of a storm overnight. More rain due at the weekend and early next week. So not looking great on the weather front. Unlike with the altitude in Madrid, which helps the servers. As we said, this is more conventional European clay. Last year, the service hold percentage was 61.3%. Madrid was 63 last year. It was actually 66.3 last week. So this is going to play appreciably slower. Previous winners, Swiatek, defending champion. She's won 3 of the last 4 editions. She beat Sabalenka last year. In 2022, she thrashed Ons Jabeur in the final. The year before that, she beat Karolina Pliskova 6-love, 6-love. Pliskova's also the beaten finalist in 2020. The one I've missed out was Jelena Rybakina, who won it in 2023. Pliskova's actually won the tournament. She won in 2019. Elena Svitolina's a 2-time champion, 2017 and 2018. So, looking back over the years, you've seen players who you'd consider more as clay court specialists. Halep won it 1 year and Svitolina's won it a couple of years. But Rybakina and Pliskova have won it. So, obviously Sabalenka reached the final last year. So the big servers can perform well, but it's probably more weighted towards the clay court specialist, this one, than say Madrid or Stuttgart.
Yeah, I mean, it is a tournament that is for players that obviously are a bit slower, more traditional clay courters. You have got the fluky ones like Pliskova in there, as you say. Contas made the final. Kalinina made the final, and Rybakina won it. It was a shock year that in 2023. The positive for Sabalenka is she's the best player in the world right now. She's absolutely on fire, and she's way clear as the best player in the world. The negative for her is obviously I always find it very difficult for people to win back-to-back thousands. Now we've had it a couple of times already this year. A couple of people, obviously done well. I think it was back-to-back, but
Andreeva was back-to-back.
Andreeva won. Yeah, well, she was going to say I didn't know. I thought Doha was between it, but obviously she won in Dubai and then she went and won in Indian Wells. So you've seen it already happen, but Sabalenka's played a lot of tennis, and I always think a lot of people I always think you don't want to really peak too high going into a major. Obviously, the major, the French Open's a long way away yet, but Sabalenka may have played a lot of tennis, and people might think of it as a good time to face her in what is not going to be her best surface. The other thing about it is the weather's, like you say, it's not going to be that warm. There'll be a lot of rain, a lot of dew, which will make the court even slower to play. So the court conditions will not suit Sabalenka, but the way she's playing now, she'll have enough confidence to breeze through anybody. When you're looking at it, back-to-back people who've won the 1,000 in Madrid and then gone on to win Rome, it's really only Iga Swiatek who's done it, and she's done it a couple of times in the last 4 years, but she's been such a dominant force on clay, it's very, very difficult to do that. And, Sabalenka to win back-to-back thousands on clay is a real statement. And that will enhance her position and make her even more confident of going all the way in Wimbledon and going into the time of year when she's really going to excel. I mean, she could be just incredible this year. At the end of the year, she could barely be beaten if she can win this back-to-back here in the thousands. I think the price is about fair for Sabalenka, 2-1. I think it's about fair. The one thing I other think for negative for Sabalenka is the top half of the draw is absolutely loaded. It's you have a huge advantage to be in the bottom half of the draw compared to the top half of the draw. In that top half of the draw, you had Sabalenka, you have Goff, you have Andreeva, you have Zheng, the Olympic champion. You have players there who are. It's a difficult draw, very difficult draw. Rybakina as well. It's hard. The bottom half of the draw is much easier, and that's where we find Iga Swiatek, and that is the only reason why Iga Swiatek is the joint favourite to win this tournament, because of her draw positioning. Not because of her form, not because of anything else. The fact that she's been put in the bottom half of the draw. If she was in the top half of the draw, or in a different half of the draw, Sabalenka would be the clear favourite without a shadow of a doubt. So, that said, we look at the sections. You have Q1, you have Sabalenka, you have Zheng in there, you have Rybakina, former champion. Other than that, there's not really much. You got your journey women, your Kennings, your Kazakinas, your Vekic, your Frex. I mean, they're all decent enough players, but I don't think any of them are going to trouble Sabalenka. And I think that Sabalenka will probably and arguably get through that section of the draw. So I think that that first quarter, there may be a couple of Kostruks in there as well who could give us some problems. But I do think Sabalenka's route to the semi-finals is pretty easy compared to everybody else. Q2, Goff, great return of form last week. Got to the final, had to take, played well as well. Did well in the final. Had her opportunities. Absolutely dismantled Iga Swiatek, and she should be so proud. And she must come into this tournament and go into the French Open with huge, huge confidence. But she's got some dangerous opponents in there. Anisimova, Alexandrova, Mira Andreeva. Obviously, this is someone that we are talking about who is a serious contender. So Q2, not for this week, but also for the French Open as well. I know she's had a dip off her form, but she's a 2x 1,000 winner this year. So Q2 to meet Bencic. Q2 looks very hard. Very, very, very hard. And for that reason, I wouldn't look at anybody in Q2. But obviously, if you're in Q1, you've got Sabalenka. Sabalenka will have to play a Goff or Andreeva, Towson, Anoshkova, Navarro, Anisimova, Alexandrova. I mean, that's a tough section. So I've totally dismissed the top half of the draw. I don't know if you've got any views on the top half of the draw. I've just left that. I think that's just a very, very difficult puzzle to solve.
Q2, as you say, Goff's back on form, Andreeva's there. I didn't see too many other dangers in Q2, but Q1 does look. I mean, for me, the standout sort of dangers were Kasatkina and Rybakina. Rybakina's now dropped out of the top 10. That's how far she's fallen. Kasatkina, I think, back on slower clay, I think could go well. I mean, she reached the semis in 2022 when she was unseeded. She lost to Ekaterina Alexandrova in Madrid. Conditions definitely more in Kasatkina's favour here. Alexandrova needs it quick to help her serve. But I think Kasatkina would be. I mean, you're relying on Sabalenka to almost beat herself, because the way she's playing, as you say, even though it's tough, it's hard to pick someone that you think could beat her the way she's playing. She has played quite a lot of tennis, as you say. These conditions should be really slow, so that won't help her. And I think if she was to face someone like Kasatkina, who's very, I'm not going to say defensive, but, she gets everything back. She stays in rallies. I think she might have a bit of a test. But, if Sabalenka's playing as she did last week, she'll go through to the semis, no problem, and probably get through to the final. But I think, let's look at the bottom half, because I think we can have a bit more fun there.
Definitely. I mean, and this is where it is. This is where it's winnable, and this is where, when you have tennis tournaments like this, where the draw is so lopsided, this is where you've got to head with Bet Rivers, because they give you that option of having the half the odds each way, 1-2. So if you're betting someone in this half, you're getting half the odds for them to win to get to the final, and this is where you've got to go. So if we look at Q3, Jasmine Paolini, obviously the Italian player, loads of pressure on her in her home slam, not playing very well. Was really disappointing last week, but return to this slow court may see her to return to form. But the way she got beat 6-2, 6-1 by Zachary was a performance that it was an absolute shocking performance. And I've thought this year she potentially could be a little bit of a fade. Jabeur is in that section as well. I mean, at the moment, the way she's fallen down the rankings to just inside the top 32 in the world at the moment. So she's a fade. You've got Ostapenko, who's playing well. She obviously beat Świątek and went on to win the tournament the other week as well. Where was that tournament? I can't remember. Stuttgart. She won the tournament in Stuttgart. Yeah. So she's obviously going to be a major threat. She will play Mukova, who's in that section. And then you have Jessica Pegula, who I know she's done all right on some clay court events, but they're American clay, and I don't really have her as a player that I would want to really consider as a main contender on European clay. She got beat early on in Madrid last week. She got hammered by Alexandrova in Stuttgart as well. Obviously, she won in Charleston. But as I say, the difference between European clay and American clay is so different. So Pegula's a definite fade. So in that section there's a couple I like. The one person I like is Diana Schneider, the number 13 seed. 21 years of age. She's only ever played here once before, reached a round number 3. She's a player that broke onto the scene last year, and I thought that she was going to have a really, really, really good year this season. It hasn't really happened for her. But last week, she reached the round of 16 in Madrid. She went up 2 spots in the world rankings up to number 12. But it was an interesting match because she got beat. She lost the first set against Iga Swiatek, and then she came back and won the second set, had opportunities to win the match. But I think even though she lost that match, she will take great heart from that. And in the match previously, she played Sevastova, and she won 6-love, 6-love, a double bagel against Sevastova, who obviously beat Ostapenko in round one. So that was a huge, huge win. And I think this is a player that has the clay court game. She is a player that is clearly better than what she's playing at the moment. She won the clay court tournament in Paris last year. She beat Navarro. She got to the third round here. She got beat by Badosa, as I said earlier. And I think that she is somebody that I think could go quite deep in the tournament this week. But Bet Rivers are taking no chances on the Russian. They're 35-1 to win the tournament. And I think that's a little bit too short. I'd want to bet her if she was 50-1 or bigger. But at 35-1 or that price, they are very shrewd, in my opinion, to keep her on their side. So if I can't pull the trigger at 35-1. In the bottom half of the draw, you've got Keys. Again, I've made my case of Keys before. You've got Iga Swiatek. You've got Badosa. Svitolina, who's won this tournament twice before. But who in that section can beat Swiatek? I think Swiatek will breeze through to the quarterfinal again, and when Keys potentially could give her a game, but on a slower clay court, I'm not. But where I feel that Keys, what Swiatek will do, she'll get through to the tournament, deep in the tournament, and then when she plays one of the big players, then they beat her, and that's pretty much consistently what's been going on this year. And I don't see any problems for her. Svitolina would be someone. I think she's a two-time champion here, playing exceptional tennis, but at her age, she's played a lot of tennis in recent weeks, and I don't think she's got the game to beat Iga Swiatek on this really slow surface. So I'm looking at it again. I'm looking at in that top half of the draw. I do like Schneider and the price there, but I think Bet Rivers are short at 35-1. But I think the value has to be Ostapenko at 30-1. I mean, she won that tournament, as you said, in Stuttgart. She didn't do well last week in Madrid, but I highlighted the point that Ostapenko, when she wins a tournament, she has a rough week. She's had essentially a week off because she got beat so early, and now she can come here fresh. And if she can get through that top quarter, which is pretty, she's got to beat Mukova, she's got to beat Paolini, which I think, the pressure on Paolini, and I think Ostapenko will thrive on that if they met in the last 16. I think Paolini would feel the pressure with it in front of the Italian crowd, and Ostapenko will thrive on it. And I think if she gets Ostapenko gets the opportunity to play in the semi-final against Iga Swiatek again, where she's 6-0, she will relish that opportunity. And I think Iga Swiatek, in a fragile way she is at the moment, will not have any answers. So I think the value is in the bottom half, and the value is a recent clay court champion, former French Open champion, and at 30-1, I think Ostapenko is my best bet. I'm going to have a half a point each way on Ostapenko each way at 30-1 to win the Rome Masters. I do like Schneider, but at 35-1, I couldn't play.
Yeah. My notes here. Schneider is interesting, although I think she'd want it quicker. That's my feeling with her. I remember when she won in Hong Kong tail end of last year, and she demolished Katie Boulter in the final. And she's a player who hits winners. She likes to hit winners, and I'm just not sure conditions will be quick enough for her to be successful with that way. Ostapenko, on the other hand, can win on anything. Obviously, she did win the French Open back in 2017. As you predicted, early exit in Madrid. But I don't think that quarter looks too bad for her. You said Paolini, Pegula. Paolini said thumped by Sakkari. She's recently changed coach. Pegula, for me, is vulnerable on slow clay, as you said. Mukova, I'd be really surprised. She's been off again. I'd be really surprised if she was tuned up, raring to go. And I think, I just, Svitolina was interesting, but I just can't see her beating Swiatek on this surface. Her only win over Swiatek was at Wimbledon, which obviously we know Swiatek doesn't go well on grass. She's still very inexperienced on the surface. I think she only played Wimbledon last year on grass. It sounds like she might be doing the same again this year. Been lots of rumours about her, after her Madrid exit. So I think Ostapenko's the play. And obviously we've said many times, she carries a bit of a health warning. But she's the only one really in that bottom half who I could see beating Swiatek. Someone else could. I mean, Keys obviously beat a 6-love in the first set in Madrid, but as you say, this is going to be slower. So let's make Ostapenko a point each way at $30. And I'll go half a point in the top half. I'll go half a point each way on Kazatkina. She's $75. I should run through the outright odds. Swiatek and Sabalenka joint favourites at $2. Coco Gauff $6. Miran Draver $9. Karolina Mukova $20. As I say, she's been off injured for a while. She was due to play in Madrid but pulled out late. Jasmine Paolini and Elena Svitolina both $25. Jessica Pegula $28. Madison Keys and Yelena Ostapenko and Yelena Rybakina, winner in 2023. They're all $30. Qinwen Zheng, $33. Deanna Schneider, who, as you say, very short, Bet Rivers at $35. Belinda Bencic and Naomi Osaka, $40. Osaka actually won the Challenger in San Malo yesterday. That's her first ever title of any kind on clay, but it is a Challenger. It's not a proper WTA Tour event. She's $40. Paula Badosa is $66. She's back in the top 10. But yeah, I think Ostapenko is the way to go. And as you say, that bottom half is probably favourable. And you just can't, Swiatek at $2, just the way she's playing, you can't really back her with any great confidence. And as you say, it could very well happen again. She faces someone strong or Ostapenko in the latter stages, and then she loses. I mean, that has been what's been happening all year.
Yeah, I think the strategy here, and also with the Swiatek, is that Swiatek just runs into whoever. It's just the top players at the moment. She hasn't got the belief she can beat them, and
No.
I think that section of that draw, she's been very, very favourable in that section of the draw, Swiatek, and she may steamroll a couple of these people. I mean, she could have quite easily beat Cochereto or Avasayan 6-love, and have great confidence going into round 2. She could quite easily beat Danielle Collins at the same price, very easy as well. Danielle Collins. And then she runs into Svitolina, which I think she can beat her. But I think once she runs into someone who a Gauff, an Andreeva, a Sabalenka, an Ostapenko, I think she's got serious problems.
Yeah. So there we have it. So just to run over our bet, Yelena Ostapenko, a point each way at $30. And Daria Kazatkina, for me, half a point each way at $75. Of course, we've got the Betting Weekly Tennis live show, Monday to Wednesdays. So you can keep across plenty of in-play action and look forward to the outright betting as well. Plenty of good interactions there. Really enjoying that at the moment. And Nigel, plenty happening. You've been chatting to Sean. Does the men's start a day later as well again, or does that start tomorrow as well?
Yeah, no, it'll be we'll be doing Betting Weekly Game Bet match tomorrow. Sean has just arrived in Rome. He's out there at the moment. I will be there at the weekend when Sean is coming back. So we'll have a preview show, Betting Weekly Game Bet match tomorrow. We've also got 2 new shows starting now, Monday through to Friday. Every week we have Major League Baseball, Betting Weekly Hardball, which is live now every day. That's 6 o'clock UK, 7 o'clock UK time, which is 2 p.m. Eastern time. And then we have Betting Weekly Quick Break, which is Fast Break, which is a basketball show as well, with Doug Kazarian, both days, every day, 5 days a week, Monday through to Friday.
There you go. Plenty happening on the Bet Rivers network. And of course, please follow us. Give us your thoughts. Who do you think's going to win in Rome? Can Swiatek get back on track? Can Sabalenka keep on rolling? Or will someone else win the big prize in the Eternal City? Give us your thoughts and give us a like and a subscribe as well on YouTube. That's it from us for this week, of course. We've got all the football as well, soccer going on, business end of the Champions League semi-finals, Tuesday and Wednesday. Looking forward to that. Make sure you tune into all the shows and our tipsters are in tip-top form at the moment. But thanks for joining us, and we'll be back again, well, about 2 weeks from now.
Wow.
And it will be, just building up. It'll be the 1 week before the French Open and the next slam. But thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll catch up with you soon on Betting Weekly WTA.